Jai Hind. Today I am here to discuss about the importance of tender presentation. Tender presentation is a critical state of tender formulation and tender procedures. It is usually done after the issue of tender documents and before issue of corrigendum. The corrigendum is issued after the tender presentation, if any. It is the first step to analyze the tender threadbare from all angles. This is done in presence of all concerned under the appropriate accepting officer along with his concerned contract, planning, architectural sections and executives, also in the presence of user representatives. The comments for improvement of the work as per the authorization is considered by the accepting officer for discussion on various issues right from the sections as well as from the executives and the user rep. Now, the tender presentation is done once the tender document is submitted and is open for tendering. It is to be submitted by one down. In case of chief engineer contracts, the comments have to come from CWE, GE and all concerned sections of all the parties. Concerned office has to submit the comments on various aspects of the project, taking into consideration all points, whether they be addition, alteration that is required in the tender documents or modification of a critical design based on structural changes or the changes in ancillaries or the specifications. These should be crisp, to the point and invariably should also lead to the solution or should be able to be discussed to arrive at an amicable solution so that the project can be proceeded. The decision here is taken for any changes that are to be properly recorded for issue of amendments. As we all know that after the ADAM approval, based on the power of the CFA, the works are tendered. For Army, the power of acceptance of necessity and tendering is as shown on the view foil. For the Air Force, the Chief of Air Staff, the AOC in C, the Commandant AFA and the SOA and the AOC, the CFA and sanctioning of the work as well as authorized and the special works. The concurrence of the IFAs is to be exercised as shown. This is for the Navy and the IDS. Now, after the tender is uploaded, within 10 days of uploading of the tender, the executive who has to execute the tender gives a certificate in writing. The certificate consists of, first, the site is free from all encumbrances. That is, there are no problems or no legalities involved for the allocation of the site. He also certifies that adequate water is available or is not available for the use by the contractor. He has to certify whether adequate arrangement for electricity for contractor for use is available or not available, or the contractor has to put his own meter and take a connection legally. He also has to justify and locate as per the site zonal site plan the place for labor camp and the site lab in the project. Usually site labs are considered for projects of 1 crore and above. Now, the important points which are considered threadbare in the tender presentation are details of the admin approval. The points considered here are: when is the admin approval given, what is the cost, after doing the rate analysis what is the likely cost that is acceptable, which is usually the 10% of the ADAM approval amount. Then the point considered is what is the scope of the project, what all intricacies it involves and change if any is required. This also includes the change in sites. Then comes the change in structure and the design, where the planning and the design sections of E2 sit together and they discuss out and plan as to if there is a requisite structural change or design change required. Based on the comments on the drawings with respect to change in structural drawings, the change in finishes, the change in external and internal wirings, the change in fittings and fixtures, the specifications, the changes in firefighting system, and likewise the changes in all other aspects which includes drawings and design is discussed. Special conditions for the project work, if any, are also discussed and ensured that they are complied with. Now the checklist to understand the tender comments. Firstly, the foremost check that is carried out is whether the tender form and the general conditions of contract are correctly mentioned and correctly entered in the tender. The check is also carried out for the name of the work, the description of the buildings and their drawings, and it is ensured that they do not contain any classified nature of information. The pre-qualification criteria and the documents required to be submitted by the contractor in cover 1, that is technical bid, should be comprehensively mentioned in the notice inviting tender and is checked. The NIT should contain correct estimated cost at market rates, the cost of tender, the earnest money deposit and all other details. It is also checked whether the buildings require anti-termite treatment and waterproofing treatment, keeping in view items such as sump, overhead tank, incinerator, etc. These are included in the Schedule A notes. Correct pre-pricing of buildings in Schedule A. This has implications on assessment of reasonability and pricing of deviations on add-on or omit side, leading to unintended benefits or otherwise. So they are discussed threadbare. Correct estimation of quantities is prerequisite and is must for all the items required for completion of the work, whether it is basic or special, and it is the requirement of contract drafting and administration which is also looked after. The Schedule A holds highest precedence in the contract agreement, hence it is thoroughly checked for units, quantities, pre-pricing, comprehensive description of items, unnecessary repetition, mismatch is to be avoided, and also correct size and thickness of all the items included is to be checked. The rate of items under schedule of credit is also correctly assessed and rechecked considering their condition and the market value. All the formulae in Schedule A and the bill of quotes has to be checked, re-verified, and all calculations in pre-priced schedules be checked and re-verified. Special conditions are to be drafted strictly in terms of site conditions indicated in the preliminary information performa or PIP, and considering aspects related to the nature of work, value of work, etc. The schedule of finishes is also a critical part and has to be checked along with Schedule A and the drawings. The particular specifications have to be drafted keeping in view the schedule of finishes, the zonal specifications, the drawings, the SSR, the technical instructions and the policy letters and the IS codes. Also are checked the makes of items which are now being finalized and have been circulated via Headquarters Chief Engineer Command. These are strictly adhered and ensured that at least 3 makes are included so that no monopoly is given. It is also necessary to mention the make of items in the list of makes under particular specifications and not in Schedule A. However, the model or CAT part number of one of the makes be mentioned in Schedule A with provision to provide equivalent CAT part of other makes mentioned in the list of makes. The drawings and their amendments are to be numbered and dated discreetly and be correctly referred in the list of drawings. Also, it is ensured that a master tender is prepared and maintained. All amendments, corrigendum, that is revision of pages or drawings, etc., are regularly carried out on the master tender to avoid any misunderstanding and confusion at a later stage. The correspondence are is made with the contractor or the bidder on his authenticated or the latest correct address or the email as per the enlistment of the contractor. The correspondence with the contractor or the bidder is made on his authenticated or latest address or email as per his enlistment details. The drawings and their amendments should be numbered. The drawings mentioned in the list of drawings only shall form the part of the contract. It should be ensured that the tender ID is correctly referred in all subsequent correspondence. After undergoing the tender presentation and listening to the tender comments and having a discussion thereon, we can assess the exact period of the contract for its execution. Changes, if any, are made in this stage only. Revised item approval, if required, is initiated in this stage only. It also gives us a chance to revisit the scope of work, and changes, if any, can be made at this stage. Also, the change in design and the structure, if needed, is incorporated in this stage. It is ensured that all these points are covered and a single corrigendum after the tender presentation is made so that it minimizes and resolves all the issues pertaining to the tender. It is also advisable to have pre-bid meetings and comments for higher tenders. This also gives us a chance to avoid any deviation or dispute in future, to cut down and minimize the points which lead to arbitration cases at the latter stage, and it incorporates all the comments before the bid start date. Hence, we come to the end of this presentation and we understand how important the tender presentation is and the tender comments are for successful and proper execution of a work. Thank you.